Hey, what is going on everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and back here over at the Xbox 360 because we are going to be revisiting Bad Update, but we have something pretty great, unlike the name of it here, that we're going to be looking into. This here is going to be how to back up and play your own games here using a Bad Update enabled system, or even a RGH or JTAG if you're wanting to move these over to a hard-modded system, maybe hard-mod your system later on, whatever you're wanting to do. Now real quick, for those who might not know, Bad Update is a software-only hypervisor exploit for the Xbox 360 which has recently released, which allows Xbox 360 consoles up to dashboard 17559 to be able to launch unsigned code, which is really great because this time around we do not need to open up the system at all. So this means no JTAG, no RGH, and with recent developments, really all you need here is a USB drive and you can get to playing around with Homebrew. This combined with the payload FreeMyXe makes for a nice environment in which it's not going to be as robust as having a hard-modded RGH system, for example, but if you're wanting to get a nice taste of Xbox 360 modding, Homebrew, emulation, this here is not a bad option. I have been covering this here lately in a few videos, and if you are not up to speed, I will have a guide linked down below in the description of this video, because following that and having your system set up with Bad Update is going to be required in order to follow along with this. But like I said, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through the process of backing up some disc-based games, Xbox Live Arcade games, as well as games on demand titles. So hopefully by the end of it, you'll have those games not only backed up, but then playable on your own system, another Bad Update enabled system you might have, or even, again, like I said, a hard modded system. Now I do want to give a few disclaimers here, because first of all, if this seems a little convoluted and like you're going to be jumping through a few more hoops than usual, that's because you kind of have to do that. I have no doubt that this is probably going to change a little bit in the future and it will be a little more seamless, but at this moment it is not super seamless and there are going to be games with incompatibilities. So there's going to be games that will work fine, there's going to be other games that you'll run into issues that might require additional patching or might not work at all. There is also a limitation around title updates in which if you have a game that has been backed up, it's unlocked, it's ready to play, but you have a title update for it on your system, it might not play. So this will at least work for the base version of a game, and I will show you all how you can play the base version of a game using Aurora, because we're able to use that to essentially force whatever title update we want to, including no title update. But I will say this here, if you're still wanting to mess around with this on the Xbox 360 but you're looking for a better experience, go with RGH. That's still going to be the best option going forward, to either RGH your own system or get a RGH system. With that being said, and with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the prerequisites. Of course, you are going to need your Xbox 360 up and running and working, and you are going to need to have it set up with Bad Update as well as FreeMyXe or FreeMyXe. Again, if you have not done this before, I'm going to have a video linked down below in the description. If you follow that, it should get you sorted. And you're also going to need your USB drive, of course, for that. I'm going to be using the same USB drive for everything here for my games and backing up and such, but if you want to connect another USB drive and have that be your additional storage, you can do that as well too. So what I'm saying is you're going to need a USB drive, whether it's just for Bad Update or you want more storage on there. And of course you are going to need your games. Now I'm going to be using a disc-based game. I'm also going to be going into the games I have on here, and I'm going to be backing up a games on demand title as well as this Xbox Live Arcade title. So with that, let's go ahead and work on getting our games backed up first. I know we're going to actually do this a little out of order. Usually I like to do the downloads, but for the flow of this, it's actually going to make more sense to work on the games here. So if there's any games on your storage here that you're wanting to back up, or of course from disk, let's go ahead and work through that. Of course, like I said, you are going to need to have some storage available. For this here, we are going to be using a USB drive, and if you want to hook up another one and format it, you're welcome to do that. I'm personally not going to be doing that because all the stuff I'm working with, it'll be fine on this USB drive right here. Now what we need to do, first of all, if you want to back up a disk-based game, we're going to of course insert our disk into the console, so let's open up our tray and pop in one of our games. Now this here, I picked this title on purpose because it's not going to be as simple, but don't worry, for you all, it's going to be the same in the end here. Now this here is Tetris the Grandmaster Ace, and check this out, if I try to launch it normally, it's not going to work on here because this is actually an out-of-region game. This here is a Japanese game that I own, but my console is set for North American releases. So as you can see, this is not going to work on this system. But I'm going to show you all, you can also get this working because we are going to have the benefit of making this region free as well, in a way, when we play it from backup here. So even though that does not work, what we can do is navigate over to our games, go over to XEX menu, and run XEX menu 1.1 or whichever one you have here. When you're within XEX menu, tap the RB button on your controller and it will bring up your USB drive. And over here, we can go ahead and create a new folder. Tap the Y button and go down to create. And what we're going to do is call it games. And it can just sit in the root of the USB drive. Now go into the games directory, go to create, and we're going to now create the folder for our game. I'm just going to call mine Tetris TGM Ace because, well, that is the name of the game. And once that is created, we can go into that game folder. Now you need to hit the Y button yet again and go down to the copy DVD option. Go ahead, hit the A button. And if you've already inserted your game like I did, it's going to spit it out and it's going to ask you to insert the DVD you want to copy. So go ahead and make sure it's there, hit confirm. It should automatically close the drive for us and just wait a few seconds for it to spin up. And here we go. I also picked this game because thankfully it is quite a small game. You could see here, even though it's pressed to a DVD, it's less than 100 megabytes in size, but all you need to do is wait for this to extract out. I do want to mention this as well too, that at this moment, disk-based backups such as this are only playable when you extract them out. So that is why we're not going to be installing it normally and we're not going to be putting it into a GoD or games on demand container. It has to be extracted if you're using bad update and you're going to be backing up your game in order to play it. So now that that's been copied over, we should be all good. And as you can see, well, we only have this and our data folder, but the game has been backed up. So with our disk backed up here, you can back up any other games you want to, but that's the only one I'm backing up for now. I'm going to go ahead and quit back out to the dashboard. Now the next game type we're going to be backing up is going to be Xbox Live Arcade. For that, you can navigate all the way over to Settings, go to System, go to Storage, find wherever your storage is at, go into Games and Apps, and I know the game that I'm wanting to back up here is going to be Peggle. So you can go in here, find your game itself, tap the A button, go ahead and copy it out, or move it if you want to, but we're going to copy it over to the USB drive and just wait a few seconds for this to finish up. And there we go. So we are all good. That's 2 of 3 backed up. Now for our final type of game, it's going to be games on demand, or GoD for short. We can go over to our games here, and just so you all see, and just so you all know, this is a full game such as Call of Duty Black Ops or Halo Reach, for example, that would normally be on a disc. You can see here that another game I have is Metro 2033. However, this does require a disc, and you can even see that the icon is a little bit different. But Halo Reach, for example, as well as Call of Duty Black Ops, are games that have been downloaded from Xbox Live. So in order to back up a games on demand title, you need to go over to Settings, go to System, and it's really the same as Xbox Live Arcade. Go into your hard drive or whatever storage you're using and find your game. Mine is Black Ops. Find the Black Ops game right there, and you just need to copy or move this. I'm going to go ahead, give it a copy, and copy it over to storage. The only downside with a game like this is that it is much larger than an Xbox Live Arcade game. So go ahead, put down your controller and wait. Alright, so that one took a bit of time, but we were able to get that done at least. So we can now exit out of here. And now if we need to remove that same USB drive, since my profile's on here, I'm going to go ahead, sign out. And then at this point, go ahead, disconnect the USB drive, and let's go over to our computer. So now we're finally getting to the downloads portion here, and there's going to be a few things I'll have you all download. The first thing is going to be from the Xbox 360 Bad Update repository, which will be linked down below in the description, along with everything else. You can click on Releases, and we don't need the actual exploit itself here because it's already been set up, but you're going to need this tools.zip in case you do not have this. Just go ahead and save this somewhere you can easily find it. The next thing is going to be having a custom dashboard. Now this here is optional, but I'm going to show you all this as a bit of a workaround. So in case you do have a game with a title update which is not working, you can force your game to play without a title update, or hopefully in the future when title updates are supported, you can download and pick your own title updates. You can just come to the Aurora download page and then download the latest build of it here and save it somewhere you can easily find it. And for our last download here, I'm going to have 360 Content Manager's page linked over from Console Mods. This here is going to be good for our Xbox Live Arcade as well as games on demand titles. So there's instructions right here and a feature set, but if you want to give this a download, just click on on the download link right here, and of course, save it somewhere you can easily find it. Oh, and at any point, if you're having trouble extracting these archives, go ahead and give 7-zip a download and an installation, and after that, you should be sorted out. Alright, so now we should have our 3 downloads here. Go ahead, right click and extract tools right here. For Aurora, we're going to extract it into its own directory. And finally, for 360 Content Manager, you can extract this just right here. It should give us our accompanying folders here, and since we have the folders, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the archives, since we're not going to need them. Now make sure your USB drive is plugged in and recognized, and you can see right here, this is the same USB drive we are working on, because if we go to Games, for example, we can find Tetris TGM Ace. So in order to play a disk-based backup like this, like I said, you are going to need to extract it out, so that means it must be in raw extracted file format like this. It cannot be in a games on demand container. And this is going to be the first one we're going to work on. This here, I will say your mileage may vary on games. There's going to be some games that work just fine with patching and other ones where they might not work with bad update. However, this one and a few others I've been able to get to work successfully. So in order to make this work, we need to find our executable. This one here is the default.xex file. What you can do is grab that file, right click it, copy, and then right click and paste right next to it. And it's going to make a copy of it exactly like that. And I'd recommend you rename it to something like default_original.xex just so we have the original untouched version. Now keep in mind as well too, every single disk-based game is going to have a default executable, but there's also going to be some games which will have multiple executables, such as the Call of Duty games, where you might see a default and you might see a default_mp. You're going to have to copy both of them, and you're going to have to patch the both of those files. Now, if you're concerned about patching, don't worry, I'll show you right now, it's not too difficult to do. You're going to need to take your default.xex file, go ahead, right click, cut it. Now go into the XE patcher folder, and right click and paste it here. It's going to be next to XEX tool and all these other files. So we need to open up command prompt from this directory, and what you can do is go to the address bar, clear this out, type in cmd, and then hit the enter key. It will now bring up your command prompt window within this folder, and here we need to type in the following command. And I've shown this before, but this is going to be a patch that you need to run on really any executable you're running in a bad update environment. This is going to be xextool.exe space -m space r space -r space a space, and then type in the full name of your executable you're wanting to modify. Mine is default.xex because that is it right there. But again, if you haven't named anything else, you're going to need to make sure that name matches here. So now you need to hit the enter key, and this has happened before on mine here, so I'm actually glad it's showing it. But this is supposed to remove any type of limits on here, and then it's supposed to encrypt this to retail. However, you could see that I have an error writing an altered XEX to default XEX. So what you might need to do is come over to your default XEX file, right click, go to properties, and check this out. I found the culprit. It is set to read only. So if that's the case, you need to uncheck this, hit apply, hit OK, and now on command prompt, you can hit the up arrow and hit enter. And as you can see right here, check this out. Successfully wrote altered XEX to default XEX, and it's saying that this is a retail encrypted uncompressed executable. As long as we have it retail, we're good to go. So we can close out of here. Now grab your game's default executable, right click, cut it, exit out of here, and we're going to paste it into the game itself. And now once that's been pasted, we're good to go. Our disk-based game has been patched up properly, and it should hopefully be playable. So that's covered one of our games and one of our types, but we still have 2 others, which is Xbox Live Arcade, as well as Games on Demand. Now, this here is where we're going to need 360 Content Manager 3.2, or whichever version that you have. I'm going to minimize out of this and open up 360 Content Manager, find the Content Manager executable, and double click it to open it. Now you should get a splash screen here, and what I'm going to do is browse content on my PC. Next, it will give you this notice here. Go ahead, read it, make sure you understand it, and once you're good, you can hit OK. And here we go. This is 360 Content Manager. So in order to navigate this here, we're going to expand my computer. Now you need to find the drive letter for the drive that you have hooked up. Since I know my USB drive is H, I'm going to open this up here. Now you need to find your content directory, open that up, open up the zeros directory, And in here, you need to start looking for your actual game itself. So depending on how much content you have here, you might have to look for a little bit. Like I know, for example, this one is XEX Menu 1.1. This one here is Rock Band Blitz, for example. But the one we're going to be looking for is this here, which you can see is Call of Duty Black Ops. So this is my Games on Demand game. Go ahead and click this, and you can see right here that it is showing as locked. So what we need to do is check this game, right click it, and click on Unlock Checked Files. It should bring this up here, and all we need to do is click on Patch, and once it shows as successful and we have the green check mark, we are good to go. So we can click on Close. Now if we click this again here, you could see that this is unlocked. So that's our Games on Demand game. And the nice thing is our Xbox Live Arcade games are pretty much the same process. So let me find it here. Here we go, we have this one is Peggle. Now I've noticed this game shows as unlocked and yours might as well too, but just to make sure it is actually unlocked for us, we can check this, right click, unlock checked, make sure we patch it, and there we go, it's been patched. So we come over here yet again, it's looking good at this point. So we've now been able to patch our Xbox Live Arcade game as well as our Games on Demand game. With that all done, let's close out of 360 Content Manager. Now the last folder I haven't touched here is Aurora. This here is a alternate dashboard. It's a custom dashboard that you can use and you run it as an application. And this here is optional, but if you're wanting to make use of this, I'll go ahead and show you real quick. It's going to be the same thing as before. You need to take the Aurora executable. And like I said, I do recommend giving this a copy and a paste just to make sure you have this backed up. You can then rename the copied version, something like Aurora_original. Now take the actual original Aurora file. We're going to cut it out, go to XE Patcher, and paste it in here. And just like before, CMD. And once you have this window up, it's going to be xextool.exe space -m space r space -r space a space aurora.xex. Hit enter, and again, it removes all the limits and then it makes sure this is set to retail. So we can close out of here. Now we need to grab our Aurora executable and we're going to move it back into the Aurora directory. Let's close out of this. And what I'm going to do just to make this look a little nicer is I am going to rename this to Aurora. Just like that's all good. Shorten it a bit. Now at this point, we can copy this out, go back to our USB drive, and if you do not have an apps folder, you can make one, but within your apps folder, if you have one, you can right click and paste in your patched version of Aurora. Just give that a few moments to copy over. There's, as you can see, a couple hundred files there. So there we go, the homebrew and patching process and everything is complete. With that all done, we can exit out of here, right click, eject our USB drive, and we're going to now go back over to the console. Now real quick, I did have to reboot my system, but just to show you all that this is actually working with the backups here, I end up removing the originals off here. So you can see in the disk drive, I don't have Tetris in here, but even if I did, it does not launch on the system. But if I go over to my storage, go over to hard drive, and games and apps, I no longer have Black Ops on here, and the other game that I end up deleting is Peggle. So I no longer have them on here. However, if I go over to my USB storage, you could see they're here, but currently they're going to show up as corrupted, which is expected when you run them on a system like this, if it has not been modified or put into a modified state. And if I go over to my games, you can see here, no Call of Duty, and I just have Rock Band, XEX Menu, Peggle do not show up. So I'm going to go ahead and rerun the bad update exploit, and then we can work on booting up these backups. Alright, so now let's go through the process of launching our backups from the dashboard after bad update has been run. You can go over to your games, my games. As you can see, I've got my Call of Duty showing up right there. I've got Peggle, and of course XEX Menu is now showing up. So if you want to launch one of these games, such as a Games on Demand title like Call of Duty Black Ops, all you need to do is fire it up from here, wait a few moments, and there we go. Would you look at that? So here we go, we'll go ahead, hit start. I'll save it to the USB drive, why not? And yeah, I have not run it on here before, so I have to do all this setup as you all know, and we should be able to hit A. Yup, graphic content is fine. As you can see, it is working at this point. I'll actually do something fun here. I'm going to launch it into multiplayer, because technically when you do this, it launches another executable. But as you can see right here, we're in multiplayer, and I'm not going to go on Xbox Live, but we can do split screen, just run whatever the default is here. And as you can see, we're actually loading, we're getting in game. this is working. So as you can see, here we are, we were able to actually get in game. It is running, it is working. It is just running on the base version, so there's no title update applied. But you can see here that we were able to get this working successfully. So this is our Games on Demand title that we were able to get up and running. Let's go ahead and exit back out to the dashboard and let's try our Xbox Live Arcade title. So for that, it's going to be Peggle. So we can navigate over here, find our game, hit the A button, and here we go. It loads up pretty instantly, so there was pretty much no time to wait on here. Now you can tell here right off the bat, this game is the full and unlocked version because it does not have any mention of unlocking the full game or any references to a trial. So if you do boot this up when it is locked or not licensed, there is going to be some kind of option within any arcade game to unlock the full game itself. But you can see here, we can go into single player, we can start this, continue on, and we can actually have some fun playing this. So I'll actually play around because, well, why not? And there we go, check it out. I did want to play through around on here because you could see I was able to unlock an achievement, and that's another thing with Xbox Live Arcade titles as well too. If it is the trial version or it is still locked, you are not able to get achievements, but if you can check this out right here, it's showing up, and I was able to pop an achievement on here, so that means we're all good to go at this point. So it looks like we have Xbox Live Arcade as well as Games on Demand down pat. Now the last thing we can do here is boot up our disk-based backup, and that was a fun one because, like I said, I was going for a little bit of a challenge because it is a Japanese import which is region locked. So in order to boot up a disk-based backup, you need to go into Games, My Games, and this time around we're going to be launching XEX menu. Now when you first start up XEX menu, it should auto-populate with any games that you have within that games directory, which is why I had you all put your games there. So as you can see, our copy of Tetris is showing up. All we need to do is highlight it, tap the A button, and wait a few seconds. And here we go, would you look at that, it is launching. It took a little bit longer than I anticipated on here, but that's also probably because it's running from a slower USB drive. However, you can now see that we were able to get this up and running and working, and the nice thing is, this is also a way we can kind of region-free our system, so to speak. So unfortunately, we still can't run any region-free games from the disk like you could on a standard JTAG or RGH system, but you can at least go through this route by dumping the game on that same system and then patching it to be able to play using bad update. So congratulations, this is how we can get disk-based games working on here. Now you do not have to just stick to playing your games through the dashboard itself here, you can also launch them through Aurora, which is our custom dashboard. And that can also help, like I said, if you have a mismatch with a title update on your system and you cannot play using that title update on your backup here. So in order to do that, you'll have to go into XEX menu, and as opposed to launching the game from here, we're going to tap the right bumper. Go ahead and look for your USB drive. Mine is specifically USB 1, so I just had to shift over using the right button on the D-pad. You can go into your apps directory, go into Aurora, and inside of here, launch the modified Aurora executable that you've made. Now, just as a heads up, the first time that you run this here, it might take a bit to load up, and if you have any title updates on your system, it might take some time to populate and back up everything on here. But as you can see, this is how Aurora is going to look at the beginning, which there's a whole lot of nothing. So in order to add some items to our Aurora dashboard, you're going to have to press the Start button on your controller, go down to Content, and from here, you're going to have to go to the Add button under Manage Paths, and select Change for your path location, and now look for your USB drive. Mine's personally right now on USB 1. Go in and you can add your games here, so you can highlight the games directory, tap the Y button, and now set your depth to 2, and you can hit Save. Now you can add another directory, go in here, change, and this one for our Games on Demand and Xbox Live Arcade games, we're going to go to the same USB drive, go over to Content, and highlight the Zeros directory. And from here, we also still need a scan depth of 2, go ahead, hit Save, and if you want to, you can add anything else on here. Like for example, if you want to add your apps directory, you can do that same thing. So highlight apps, set it to 2, and hit Save. Now my auto scan is set to enabled by default, which I'm actually going to turn this off here. So if it auto scans, then it's going to do that in the background. If not, you're going to have to hit Scan Now, which mine's already populated everything, but when you exit out of here, you should see it's not going to look the best, unfortunately, because we are not connected to a network, so we can't easily download our covers. But you could see here, I do have my Aurora set up. There's a couple showing up just because I have that original executable in here, but there's Black Ops, there's Peggle, there's Rock Band Blitz, of course, and Tetris the Grandmaster Ace. So let's say I want to launch Black Ops, for example. You can hit the Y button on here, go down to title updates and hit the A button. And if you have any title updates here, you just want to make sure that they are disabled. I don't have any for this game here or any of the other games, thankfully, but then when you want to launch a game through Aurora, again, if we use this as an example, we could just tap the A button, it's going to load it up, go ahead, wait a few seconds, and as you can see, just like that, we're able to launch Black Ops. So if you're wanting an alternative dashboard, or if you just want to force no title update on your game, but you don't want to wipe out all the rest of the title updates on your system, Aurora can work pretty well for this here. Now, the last thing about Aurora, just to keep it in mind, since there are a few extra hoops for it, whenever you do X out of a game, you are going to get kicked back to your dashboard. So if you still want to primarily utilize Aurora, every single time you are going to need to go into My Games, go into XEX menu, and then from here, if you want to make it a little simpler, you could move your Aurora directory into your games directory here, so it'll populate. I haven't done that. If you want to, it's going to be up to you, but you can of course hit the RB button, go to your USB drive, apps, find your Aurora executable, give it a launch, and then within a few seconds, you should be at your custom dashboard again, and then you can launch your games from there. So this time around, since it's launched again, let's go ahead and fire up Tetris. Because again, this game normally doesn't work, but thanks to the power of Homebrew, we're now able to play region-free on our system essentially, which is really awesome. Oh, and one last point, for what it's worth, if you want to actually keep these backups in a safer spot than just your USB drive, of course we can back them up to our computer and keep them safe on here. Everyone has their own way of managing their own backups. Just inside of here, I have a games directory, and then I've got my extracted and my Xbox Live Arcade folders, because those are the examples I'll use. So for this, we can go in here, go to games. This one is Tetris, so if I wanted to, I can copy this out and go ahead, dump it into the extracted folder. So there we go, we got our Japanese game backed up. And as for Peggle, we can go over here, and you can manage this through 360 Content Manager if you want to, or if you just want to be a madman, you can actually drill into the raw folders themselves. But I can at least tell from the file size that this one here is going to be Peggle. So like with this one, if it's going to be a Xbox Live Arcade game, you can just right click, copy this out. So you make sure you have the title ID and the media ID, and then go into your own Xbox Live Arcade folder if you have one. Create one just so it's not just that series of numbers and letters. So something like Peggle, that'll work fine. And then you can paste your game in there. I would do the same with Black Ops, but I'll be honest, I don't really want to do that with a 7 GB game right here. These other two are pretty small. So again, that's how you can actually back them up to your PC and keep them in a safe spot. Either way, that's about it for this video here. Hopefully it helped out. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. And if you did, a like would absolutely be appreciated. If you didn't like it because maybe this was just way too many hoops for you, a dislike is fine as well too. But as I always say, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone.